Hello, welcome to the interview here on France 24. Well, when Burma's new civilian government signed a truce agreement last week with ethnic Karen rebels, it was seen as another step on the country's move away from repressive rule. Now, in recent decades, tens of thousands of ethnic Karen have fled as refugees and ended up in Thailand after their villages came under often brutal attack from soldiers loyal to Burma's military regime. Now, my guest today, who joins me from London, is Zoya Pan, and she was one of those refugees. Pan was a teenager living in a bamboo hut in Burma's remote jungle when all of a sudden one day, Burmese army showed up and attacked her village. She escaped to Bangkok first with her mother and father and ended up later on in 2004 claiming asylum in the UK. And today, Ms. Pan is the campaign manager for Burma Campaign UK, trying to raise awareness about what's going on in Burma. Welcome to the show. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Zoya, I want to, talk about the army, first of all. In the outside world, it's abstract. We talk about how brutal this military regime has been, the army itself. You saw it up close. This army changed your life forever. Could you tell us, Zoya, about the day the Burmese army attacked the village where you grew up?
Yes, I was born in the eastern part of Burma in Karen State. And twice I was forced to flee for my life. That's because the attack by the Burmese army. The first time was when I was 14, and the second time was when I was 17. And I remembered the first time we were attacked with air bombs and airstrikes. And as children, we were just so terrified, and we didn't know what to do. And my mother said we had to run for our lives. And we were given very short time to pack our stuffs, and I had few clothes and some food, and we had to run for our lives in the jungle, and we ended up in Thailand as a refugee. And again, when I was 17, after I went back to Burma in another part, and it was on my exam, the final exam day. I was doing my homework and I was preparing for the exam, and suddenly there was mortar bombs and explosions, and everyone were forced to flee for our lives there. Children, older people, and myself and others, we were forced to flee carrying heavy stuff that we could carry on our back. And in the jungle at night, it was very difficult to survive. We didn't know where we would end up, and at the same time, we were afraid of animals in the jungle. And I remembered I was just too exhausted and too tired to walk. But then we heard the explosions, and my mother urged us, go, run, we have to run. We couldn't let the Burmese army capture us. And we kept running, and at the end, we ended up in refugee camp in Thailand again.
You say at the end, I'm sorry, Zoya, you were on the run for quite a while, and this was really your entire village you were with in the beginning, was it not?
That was right, yes. Everyone in the village and in the whole area were forced to flee. And actually, this kind of attack hasn't stopped yet. It's still going on in many parts of Burma.
And this is what I want to ask you about. When we talk about Burma here in the West and the outside world, there is really, you were telling me earlier about these two Burmas. There's the official Burma, we've heard of Aung San Suu Kyi and the government there. But then there's this second Burma, the Burma of the ethnic minorities, and that's really the Burma you grew up in.
That was right. The Burma that I grew up was in different ethnic minorities area where ethnic people, we have our own language, our own culture and tradition and history, and for many, many decades, we've been under attack by the ruling dictatorships. And we were not in the city part of Burma, where we have some ethnic minorities there. We were not allowed to learn our own language officially, to learn our own history. and practice our culture freely. And another part of Burma, where I come from, that is the area where the Burmese army engage in war and attacks people and target ethnic civilians. And for many decades, we've been forced to flee from our homelands, and we have almost 500,000 people hiding in the jungle, and they are living there as internally displaced people. And we have over 100,000 people living in refugee camps along the border of Burma and Thailand, and also in Indian border, Bangladesh border, and other parts of the border areas. And we face the worst human rights and humanitarian crisis, where people were forced to flee, and then we didn't have proper medical care and proper education materials. And this is the part of Burma where international community doesn't really know what is going on and doesn't pay proper attention.
Well, let me ask you, because we're paying attention right now. Let me ask you, the ceasefire agreement that I mentioned at the very start of this interview, I know that the Karen right now are asking for security guarantees. They want prisoners released. They want the end of the forced labor of civilians. Are these things, are they actually happening now? Are you hopeful that they will happen in the near future?
Yes, this ceasefire that we've seen last week between the Karen National Union and the Burmese government, of course, it can be a positive step if the government in Burma is genuine about peace. I am hopeful, and at the same time, I'm also cautious and skeptical. And I have the reasons why I am skeptical, because in the past, for 63 years, the Karen have been negotiating with the dictatorship and have been talking about ceasefire for 6 times. But the dictatorships, they didn't honor the ceasefire. They violated the ceasefire agreement. They continue attacking Karen civilians.
But this time...
And at the same time...
I'm sorry, but this... Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, that is one point. And the second point is ceasefire in Karen area alone cannot solve the problem in the whole Burma. When the government is talking about ceasefire with the Karen and the Chin and the Shan, at the same time, they launch attack in Kachin and other areas and attacking civilians, and it is unacceptable. And at the same time, this ceasefire is just a platform for political process. Because
I'm sorry, Zoya, I want to ask you about that. You're saying it's a platform for a political process. Do you trust that the president now, Thein Sein, of the country, do you trust this time he's serious? Or do you think it's just a bunch of words? I mean, he's a former general himself, is he not?
Actually, it is difficult for me to have trust in the military because of the experience that we have in the past, that they violated the ceasefire agreement, and last year they have broken 3 ceasefire agreements with ethnic armed groups. And again, while they are talking about ceasefire, they continue attacking civilians in different other parts of Burma. And without concrete pressure from international community and from within inside Burma, I don't think that the government in Burma will voluntarily continue to talk about peace and have genuine democratic reform in Burma. The important point here is, if the government is genuine about peace in Burma, the first thing that they need to do is to release all political prisoners in Burma. At the same time, to stop attack against ethnic minorities in all parts of Burma.
These attacks, I'm sorry, Zoya, I'm sorry to cut you off, but are these attacks continuing right now? What's your latest information? Ceasefire is signed. Are these attacks continuing?
Within the Karen area, we've seen the military, the Burmese government, they reinforce their military supplies in different parts of Burma. And we also see some reports that human rights violations hasn't stopped yet. So to get the guarantee for the human rights violations by the Burmese army to be stopped, we need to see a genuine political dialogue that the dictatorship in Burma commit to a nationwide ceasefire first, and then have a political dialogue that guarantee autonomy and security and equal rights for the Karen, for all ethnic in Burma.
And not just the Karen, but all the groups. We're running out of time, Zoya. I just want to ask you very briefly, Aung San Suu Kyi, we haven't talked about. What do you think of the fact that she right now trusts the generals? Do you trust Aung San Suu Kyi?
Aung San Suu Kyi is one of the main democratic leaders in Burma, and she is trusted by most of the people in Burma and outside Burma, and she remains one of the most important leading figures in Burma in terms of political reform. And she is trying her best to have change in Burma, and she is trying to use the government system within that system, and then try to use every tool she can to have genuine change in Burma.
Zoya Pan, we're going to have to leave it there. I thank you very much. You are the campaign manager for Burma Campaign UK, trying to raise awareness about poverty and education issues in your homeland, but also among your people. And you've joined us today from London. I just want to mention to our readers, you saw in the beginning, we showed your autobiography of your early life and you having to flee your home, your native home in Burma. I thank you very much for joining me today and sharing your thoughts on the changes underway in your homeland.
Thank you.